All right. So, any questions before we continue as you're digesting your lunch? Appears like there are no questions. Okay. So there was a question before about the ear occiput. So I did find a little ear thingy. And so the ear occiput, it's that red dot, and I put a big circle so you can sort of see the area I'm looking at. Okay, so that's the ear occiput. It's very good to release T4, T3, T4, T5 area in the back. So it's a way to release the back while the patient is face up, and you can do the ear. So that's the advantage of it. Okay, so we will continue. So I gave you all the, like all the whole bunch of tricks that we will go through more tricks from Lilian's list at the end, because I know it's a bit overwhelming. It's just a list of points. So when we look at what happens in pain, okay, so of course, if you're a scientist, etc., you can hook people into all sorts of biofeedback machines and find out what happens molecularly and stuff. But I'm a so-called ignorant Chinese or Japanese acupuncturist type thing. I don't have these, if we're looking at classically, what are the methods of diagnosis that we have? How do we figure things out? It's not going to be through, in blood tests, we see cortisol levels going up and blah, blah, and blah, blah, and blah, blah. So I'm looking at how does one react to pain? Okay, what happens in pain? And interestingly enough, what happens in pain, you are seeing the contracture of the three diaphragms. Okay, people sort of sink into the psoas, they contract the chest diaphragm, and they contract the throat and the facial expressions. In the next slide, you're going to see facial expressions of pain. Okay, so there is science around that. People do that. And these two cats, you can sort of see, they look like they're in pain. They're hunched over. Okay, so something happens in those three diaphragms. In the psoas, we retreat into the psoas to sort of shut down the nervous system, okay, in order to feel less pain. We are not going to expand the diaphragm, which is the instinct is that, but in reality, we know that if we actually can relax the diaphragm and expand it and breathe more smoothly and calm the nervous system, actually that will take pain away. But it's a little bit like, when you go out in the cold and the rain and you start lifting your shoulders up, and you sort of go, does this really make me any drier? Does it make me any warmer? It doesn't, but it's an instinct. I don't know where that instinct came from. It may have to do with at a time when we used to have fur or something like that. But it's an instinct that when it's cold or when it's raining, we're going to lift our shoulders up to our neck. Okay. So we're seeing the expression of pain in the three diaphragms and in the face. And interestingly enough, so that suggests to you, again, we're going back to the idea that an upright posture, that opening the three dantians, opening the three diaphragms, giving space in the body is not just giving space for the organs to be, and is important for health. It's also, naturally, if it's important to health, it's also important for pain, to counter the pain reaction. Because what happens is, you have pain, something caused pain, and then we tend to emphasize it. We tend to inflict extra pain on ourselves by our reactions. Okay, so we just go in and create more drama around it. Okay, with these reactions, and sometimes through our storytelling around it. Okay, so I'm just giving you this picture so that you can see, obviously this is a highly exaggerated pain picture. This person must be in horrible pain. But it will be much more subtle for most so-called regular pain. you know, like he's maybe being tortured by God knows what. But when you have pain, you can see all of these phenomena happening on the face. Now, notice something very interesting. So we know, compare that picture with the points specifically on the right side. Okay, all these points are affected by that facial expression of pain. That the trigeminal nerve, the zygoma, is affected. And look at these points. I only chose, of course, these points because there's something unique about them in the character, in the name, the Liao. Okay, so the character for Liao, you know, we often translate. So if you look, you know this character with Liao from bladder 31, 32, 33, 34. We call them the four Liaos, the Se Liao. Okay. And then there's four others in the body, and then the rest of them are in the face. Okay. So first of all, it's a character that's used a fair amount in point names. Okay, that's it's not the most common character, but it's one of the most common characters. Now, people translate it as a bone hole. Okay, we say it's a bone, it's a hole in a bone. That's not exactly correct. That it might be correct in terms of the connotation, but the actual character on the left side, you have the character for bone, and on the right side, you have like wings, something that's searing through, that's flying through. So like when you blow into a conch or a trumpet, it's that sort of sensation, okay, that something gets amplified. So if you have a hole, a dent in the bone, it's going to amplify the vibrations that go through the bone as opposed to a totally solid place. Okay, that's like a conch amplifies things. Okay, so Liao points are points that amplify things, and notice how many of them have to do with the face and expressions. It also suggests to you why these points, the Se Liao on the sacrum, are so important. Okay, these are points that are sitting on top of a parasympathetic ganglia, meaning they calm down.
Can you repeat the last about the parasympathetic?
About the which part?
The parasympathetic.
Oh, the sacrum, L5 and the sacrum are sitting up on top of there is a parasympathetic ganglia, like a bundle of parasympathetic nerves there, you know, that feeds the bladder, you know, the lower jiao sort of thing. So these points, these Se Liaos, are able to calm down pain. Now, I personally prefer the sacroiliac ligaments, just because if you're treating like thinner people, it will be easier to figure out that to kneel into the sacroiliac ligaments. But you can see the relationship of these of the concept of Liao. Okay, and that's very important. And notice that gallbladder 29, a big point for me, you know, to release the chest. If you release the chest, you release the nervous system. Notice that this, you know, gallbladder 29 is also a Liao point. It's the squatting Liao. Okay, so the only point that clearly, you know, here that's clearly doesn't have much, that everybody goes like, who the hell uses this point, is large intestine 12. You know, a little bit above the elbow. But I think this point has something to do with, you know, when you zing your elbow, you know, you knock your elbow. Now, granted, you do it more in a Sanjiao or small intestine channel, but I think it may come from that. I am really not sure. It's not clear to me. These are all sort of interesting questions that we ask. Why do they name points the way they name it? Okay, but you could. So one of the things I'm suggesting is look at this list and start looking at, you know, like when I encounter a Liao point, how useful is it for pain? Because there's a suggestion here that it would. Now, small intestine 18, and I'll take them all as an area. So small intestine 18 is in the center of the cheekbone. Okay. And it is supposed to be, according to what I understand, it's supposed to be the meeting of the leg young sinew channels. So it's supposed to have an effect on the leg sinew channels, muscle channels, create our posture. It's not the arms that create the postures, it's the legs that create the posture. Sanjiao 22, for example, is a point I use lots for pain, to calm the brain down. Okay. Now you can say, now you can say it's a whole area, it's a whole parietal area, and we'll go through that. We'll see, what's going on in this sort of in the sideburn area. Okay. But just to sort of see the connections that happen here, and then start to make more connections on your own. Okay. Because just because I say something doesn't mean, number one, doesn't mean it's true. Might be true for my clinic, may not be true for you, but also you want to take that and create more options for yourself. How can you take this further? Okay. So,
Avi,
yes.
just to bring up a point here, large intestine 12 in neuroacupuncture is used because the sensory nerve of the radial nerve that goes to the lateral elbow is accessible through that point. Okay,
so it's please say that the accessory nerve that what?
No, it's the L12 is directly over the sensory nerve
that
of the radial aspect of the radial nerve.
Oh, okay.
That
so
goes to the lateral elbow. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Fair enough. Okay. So I assume you do neuroacupuncture in some way or another. That's why you like the thick needles. Okay, now
and the electricity, exactly.
Okay, you go. All right.
There you go.
I would. It's interesting. Yeah. So it's the same idea of like the singing of the elbow. I just didn't have it quite right.
Exactly.
But most let's be honest, if you're not a neuro acupuncturist sort of thing, if you don't do that style, chances are you've never used large intestine 12, and you probably kind of wonder, where the hell is it anyway? So it's one of those weird things, but it is that hole right above large intestine 11, which is a huge point for people. So it's kind of interesting. So yeah, fair enough.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so back to the slides. So the next section, what I want to do is basically give you ideas of what the different parts of the body might represent. Now, I am not Louise Hay, okay? I don't do, this sort of thing. Oh, if you have pain in the little finger, it means that you're going to get married tomorrow, or whatever. I'm just making bullshit up. But you know how people say, this part of the body means this. If you have low back pain, it means you're not moving forward in life. And, that's not what I'm trying to do at all. I'm really, and the way I'm basing what I'm saying here is totally based on point names. Okay, so I did not invent this. I'm not putting any of my own philosophy into this. Of course, I'm interpreting it. So it is, to a large extent, mine. But I'm just trying to give you ideas so that when you're looking at a part of the body and you're looking at a dysfunction, you can see how it relates to different things. Okay, so this is kind of like your general map. Okay, so if we start at the feet, and this is all influenced by the fact that I'm looking at everything as how to create the upright posture. Why? Because man, human, a person, is connecting between heaven, earth and heaven. We have to create that connection, and we have to be upright, because if we're not upright, that's that ku-e from the Heart Sutra. The pain and distress that we get is from bending over, from not having uprightness, not having elongation in us. Now, I'm a person who thinks very physically in my body. I have a certain background in my body, but using my body, so it's influenced by that. I can guarantee you that other people will think very differently. And in fact, there's a big flaw in my method of thinking. Okay, I'm very aware of that, but it doesn't matter to me because I don't treat animals. Okay, animals cannot, in my opinion, we cannot translate the meridians the same way on an animal, because an animal is not upright. We are upright beings. Animals are on all four. It's a whole different ball game. And surely, in my opinion, the meridians should be different. And yet I talk to veterinarians who do acupuncture and they say, but look, it works. So something in my theory seems to work for people, but it's not the 100% theory. Because if it was working on people, it should, and it's really based on upright posture, then it can't really work for animals, theoretically speaking. And yet it does. Not this style, because you can't ask the dog, by the way, how's your liver area? Is it feeling better? Can you give me a number? Obviously, you don't do that with dogs or cats or horses or whatever. So we're all coming up with theories, with ideas of what it is that we can do. Okay. And as long as it works for you clinically, I think it's perfectly fine. And like I said, I don't think my theory is the complete theory of acupuncture. No one knows the complete theory of acupuncture. I'm not even trying to pretend that I'm anywhere near there. Okay. So in the feet, we're initiating the lift. Okay. So I'll show you that a little bit more. You know, there'll be an explanation of each of these things later on, but I just want to give you an overview. We're going to skip the ankles for a second. Okay? And in the knees, what we have are fountains generating energy to move upwards. And in the thighs, we want to suck it up and move it up, siphon it, just like with the neck. Siphon it up towards the torso so that the hips can give us a solid base, so we can start infusing it into the spine. So that's the establishment of the posture. Now, what happens at the ankles? We have point names that have mounds in them. Okay. And as you know, when people get older, you will see people with edema around the ankle. We have more edema around the ankle than anywhere else in the body. Okay. So, you know, like and it doesn't. So what you have is at the ankle, you have a place where gravity is going to fall down and push things downwards. And we're trying to resist it from the foot, from the arch of the foot, and shuttle it up through the knees and suck it up in the thighs, like narrow it and make it move more in the thighs so as to create that pelvic girdle, to create the hips so they can give you a solid base. So the spine is now supported. Okay. Now, with the arms, it's different. There is no upright posture involved in the arms because we're not walking in our hands, not on all four and not on our hands. Okay. So if you think about it, the hand, the wrists are what we're reaching out to grab things. So we've established ourselves as being upright. Now we can now walk and we can move towards what we see. Now we can actually reach out to it and grab it. That's the wrist. The elbows are what, you know, now we have some flexibility. We can bend the elbow and bring it in, whatever we wanted. The ice cream, let's say. Okay. So there's the ability of flexibility, and the shoulders are going to represent freedom, the freedom to move there. And the character for shoulder is a door. There's something that swings in the body that has freedom of movement. So let's now, so when you have a problem in an area, first, look at what it's doing. You can use this map a little bit, not for everything, just to sort of go, how is it going to affect everything else? Partially, it affects things because of the structure. If you have a problem in the elbow, it might affect the wrist. Okay, that's a fairly obvious one. If you have a problem in the foot, it's going to affect upwards towards the hip, etc. Okay, and vice versa. If you have a problem in the hip, there's going to be there will ultimately be compensations even in the foot, in the ankle. But I'm also looking at the role of the area in terms of what it represents in life. Okay, so looking at the feet. Okay, and so we're looking at the shoe points. And if you take the shoe points are on the top of the foot. If you take the same line and you go under the foot, like to the kidney 1 side, okay, this is an area that some people call the Jue line, okay? And the Jue points are supposed to be points that can affect the whole meridian. that it's on. You know, sometimes, you know, and the shoe points, the shoe stream points are supposed to do the same thing also. So this line has something to do that affects the whole the whole body, the whole meridian at least that it's on. And what I'm going to suggest to you is that the transverse arch of the foot, that shoe line, is what we're starting to push up. And if we're pushing up, we also have to narrow it down because we don't want to push up and just splay and spread all over the place. We want to gather. So if we start on the medial side, we have spleen 3, the great white. And this white is like the sun that's just rising. So it has to do with moving upwards. In liver 3, Taichung, we see the Chang itself is to surging upwards. Okay. Then we have kind of like a movement that says, okay, now we're moving into something else. We're moving stomach 43 in the middle. We have the sinking valley. Okay. So we're saying, okay, we're rising, but things can also sink. Then at gallbladder 41, we have Lin Qi, okay, which literally translates to facing to or to overlook tears or the crying, okay. But what's interesting now, gallbladder 41 is the opening point for the Dai channel. Now, I want you to remember that this opening point business is something that was imposed later on. So when the Dai channel was originally described, say 2,000 years ago, it was not described as, by the way, gallbladder 41 is the opening point. That came around 1200. Okay, that's a later, they were looking for points that they say resonate with these 8 extraordinary meridians. Okay, and then they came up with these 8 opening points that we now use. And we just say that these are opening the points, but clearly gallbladder 41 is not on the Dai. Okay, pericardium 6 is not on the Yin Wei. Okay, it's very obvious. Okay, but so one of the things that always interests me is, where did they get these ideas from? Why gallbladder 41? We know it could have been any gallbladder point, because we can say the Dai channel relates to the gallbladder. That's fine. So the Dai channel is the only channel that is horizontal. Every other channel in the body is vertical. Okay, it moves between heaven and earth. The only channel that isn't is the Dai channel. It's totally horizontal. If we're looking at the characters of to face, you can see that in this character, there is something that has something that's horizontal, to recline. Okay. And if you look at crying, it has the water and it has the character to stand, li, to stand. Okay. So you have something very interesting, gallbladder 41, that suggests something that has to do with moving between being horizontal, lying down, and standing up, being upright. That that they're thinking that this area of the body manipulates this movement between lying down on horizontalness and standing upright, which makes sense to say, oh, okay, maybe the Dai is related. And then bladder 65, the name is to bundle the bone, restrain the bone. If we're going to push up, we need to restrain it, because if you just push up, when you push something up, eventually, say it goes up 5 meters, and then gravity takes over, it's going to start spreading all over the place. Like, look at a fountain. Okay, it doesn't just go up, it goes sideways. So if I want to keep it so it goes into the spine, into the torso, something has to bring it in, contain it a little bit. So that's the idea behind the name of UB65. Okay, so what we see, and it's you can argue with the point names that, well, it's not exactly quite like that. It's not exactly that point does it exactly. But what I'm arguing is that that arch of the foot is what initiates our resisting gravity and pushing up. And oh, sorry, I never expressed that clearly. Life is about resisting gravity. If you do not resist gravity, if you just let go to gravity, what happens? you die, there's got to be some resistance. Even if you're lying down and I'm totally relaxed, I'm breathing, that's a resistance of gravity. There's always some, if you don't have any resistance to gravity, meaning there's not going to be any movement away from the earth, you're just going to merge with the earth. Eventually, it will take time, but you will. Okay, because you've got to breathe, you've got to pump blood. This is resisting gravity, even if you're lying down. So gravity is the yin factor here. It's the earth. Okay, so we're constantly resisting gravity. The first resistance of gravity that happens in the body is here, is in these shoe points. Okay. Now we're looking at, let me see if I can, no, I can't do that. Okay. So what we're seeing at the ankles is there's a whole bunch of things that accumulate. We have the character Chu, which is a mound. Okay. And so we're seeing spleen 5 has this and gallbladder 40 has that. Okay. Then we have the character different than that is of a mound is a ling, which is also translated as a mound, but it's slightly different. And that we see in spleen 9 and gallbladder 34, which is in the knee. But interestingly enough, it comes with a fountain. Okay, so it's an interesting thing. But then the other place that we see accumulation is a burial ground, something that's very yin. Okay, is gallbladder 40, the Chu Shu. Okay, so the place where, so the ankles are the places where things get buried. Now, if you think about it, look at your own, I mean, don't look at it, feel your own ankles and see, can you generate anything at the ankles? And you will find that it's very hard. Okay, so you're sitting right now. So generate something in your thighs. Just mentally generate something in the thighs. It's very easy. All you have to do is press the hamstring into the chair and something gets generated in the thigh. If I say to you, generate something in your calves, which is above the ankles, it's very easy. I can create something. If I say to you, create something in the ankles, generate something in the ankles, it's very difficult. You can push, like we did before, you can push the foot into the ground, but something kind of gets stuck at the ankle. The ankle itself is not going to open and get plied out. The ankle is sort of like this, a little bit of a dead zone. Okay, it's very interesting. And they name the points in a way that suggests that. Okay, so just kind of recognizing that. Now, in the knees, what we have 3 fountains. Okay, we have gallbladder 34, spleen 9, and liver 8. These are all fountains. Okay, and a fountain, Chuan, is something that generates. Okay, now for you in the French, okay, the knees, I think it's in the next slide. Yeah, you know, le genou, it comes from the word générer, to generate something. By the way, it's this exact same thing in English. It's a little unclear. Okay, so the knee, K-N-E-E, is actually very similar to new, something new. You're creating something new, you're generating something in the knees. In the knees, we already have the ability to push through and amplify it upwards. Why? Because the knee can be straight or bent. The ankle is, there's no, you can't really go through the ankle from the foot unless your foot is totally pointed, and if your foot is totally pointed, you can't walk. Okay, so the knees are this place where we're generating things. Okay, remember, for example, when we had in the treatment for menopause, we do adrenal. Everybody understands adrenal, kidneys for menopause, but then we're adding spleen 9 and gallbladder 34. Why? Because we're trying to generate more. Okay, there's a withering that happens from in menopause. Menopause is, you know, things are starting to wither. I mean, I know it's not very complimentary to say, but that's kind of like how it's seen. Remember the 7 and 8 cycles, year cycles. Okay, so the knee is all about generating stuff, like a fountain to push upwards, to move forward. Then on the way towards, for the thighs, what we're seeing is we're seeing these two markets, gallbladder 31 and stomach 33. Okay, so the character for market or city, this sh, really, if you look at the etymology, it comes from something that, what it means is like the outskirts of the town. You go out of town, that's why it's called a city. It's you're grabbing the area around the distant parts. Okay, so this is it. We're trying to reach and grab. We're trying to reach upwards, and the grabbing things is, you don't want your thighs to just sort of flop outwards, you know, like spread. You want them to be active, like when we did the exercise in the morning and we're pressing our heels down, we're feeling the inside of the thigh. The whole thigh gets almost like thinner. It's solidifying. Okay, and then we have bladder 37 is probably named because of it's in the hamstring. Okay, the flourishing gait. Okay, so, and then inner yin, what I call inner yin, is actually in Chinese, if you're looking at extra point names in the Chinese, is called Xin Yin Men, the new bladder 37. That's why I brought bladder 37. Inner yin is a very important point. Remember, it allows for that lift to happen. So in the thigh, there is this sort of like amplification of the upward movement by kind of narrowing it in, grabbing it, narrowing it in, and sucking it up, okay, to provide for the space in the hips and the rest of the torso. Okay, so now we're establishing, we're at the hips. Now the torso begins. This is the root of our home. Okay, we're establishing the residence here. So we have points that suggest moving up, like spleen 12, the surging gait, Chongmen. Liver 12, the urgent pulse, meaning to reaching somewhere. We have the support, the residence liao, gallbladder 29. In the back, we have bladder 36, Cheng Fu, to receive the support. And then we have gallbladder 30, okay, which is, you know, we say the jumping circle, the jumping ring, okay? And this character for, says something, it's the jumping part, it's the amen of the foot. Okay, so it says this is receiving everything from the leg, okay, and giving it a ring, a circle to quote unquote sit on, if you want. And then you have the gateway to the thigh. So this is what's happening at the hip level. Okay, so we're establishing that we've established the capacity to support the spine, the torso. Okay. And then, so we've seen this slide a few times already. Sorry, it's kind of getting boring, isn't it? But while the ankles are the place of dead zone sort of thing, above the ankle is the place where everything, there's this constant fight between supporting, you know, everything that falls down and you want to support it. That's the left side. And the yang that's going to try and push it up. And specifically, I would say bladder 58, the flying yang.
You mind repeating your last?
Yes.
Just start at the ankle, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the ankle is, we talked about the ankle is like the dead zone, where everything falls. Okay, that gravity just grabs everything into the ankle. And that's why we see edema at the ankles and stuff. You know, it's like, this is the place where gravity, if gravity is going to win, it's going to show at the ankles. Okay, so that's why we have burials at the ankle. But just above the ankle is where the battle happens. Okay, in the calf. Okay. And also, if you think about it, so I'm showing you the yang channels here, but if you think about all the important points on the yin channel, on the legs are basically also in this area, except they're on the kidney and liver and spleen. Spleen 6, kidney 7, kidney 9, liver 5. A lot of points here are important points that are used constantly. Okay, this is the place where there's this battle between downward motion. So on the left side of the slide, you see the points. They're not just points at the at the calf. I gave you all the points that are named with the character Cheng to receive. I'm receiving gravity or receiving something. In the case of bladder 6, it's receiving light. The reason why bladder 6 is in here is because sometimes you can actually use bladder 6 to fix things in these other points. It's very weird, even though it should not relate, because it's receiving the light from above, whereas these other guys are receiving from, they're also receiving from above, but they're actually receiving gravity, totally different. And yet there's something similar. Okay, and 2 of these points, bladder 56 and 57, are in this calf area. On the right side, so the left side shows you receiving, what falls down. Okay, on the right side you have what pushes up. Okay, so and most of them, and bladder 35 is obviously by the tailbone, but everything else is basically from the knee downwards, pushing upwards from the foot upwards. So we initiate the movement in the foot, and then we pump it up in the gastrocnemius. Okay, so this is the area, and there are some styles of acupuncture that actually do diagnostic. People like to do different maps of different areas of the body, and how this, here's the spleen area. There are actually maps of, of organs, etc., on the, reflexology on the gastrocnemius. That actually does exist. Okay, and it makes sense because this area takes on the whole weight of the body. It makes perfect sense. Okay, so those are the legs. Now let's look at the arms. So the wrists are what allows us to reach out and pull it in. So what we're going to have is we're going to have on the yang channels, of course, notice that all the points on the wrist have the character yang. Yang means to reach out. Okay. And then on the yin side, we have something that's big. So something, we're still expanding, we're reaching out. So even though it's yin, Tai is big and Da is big. And of course, heart 7, you can't say, did this point really exist or did it not exist, in the past? It's an interesting argument. So that one is not going to conform, the Shen Men, okay, even though it's on the wrist. So it's kind of an outlier. Okay. At the elbows, what we have is these 3 characters. We have the bending, we have the ocean, and we have a marsh. Okay, next slide, I believe you'll see the actual names. So the knees, in contrast, have a fountain. Okay, so in the knees, we have something that quickens things up, that generates and makes it go faster. In the elbows, we have the opposite. You have something that slows things down, that makes it, doesn't push it up and narrows it. It makes it wider, and like the ocean is where all the water goes to. Okay, the marsh business, okay, it basically, you can see that it can actually means something that gets exchanged. And it can also mean joyous. So there's a spaciousness in the elbow that you don't get in the knees. Okay, it's a slower movement. Okay, why? Because there's no weight here. You don't have to spring up. You don't need that fountain to spring up. In the elbows, you are accepting what comes from the world. Okay. So how did I arrive at this idea? So there are, I think I mentioned this before, there are 4 points in the body that have the character to pool. Sure. One of them is the heavenly pool. And remember this guy that was standing on his hands? I showed you pericardium 1 on him. If you're pushing up to heaven, okay, in his case, he's pushing against the earth. Pericardium 1 shows that's the tri that gathers into pericardium 1. That's the heavenly pool. Okay, so if you reached out to heaven and you can, if let's say you push, okay, hold on, let me stop the share. It'll be a little easier for you to see what I'm doing. Oops, sorry. Okay, so if you push your hands up and really push, so you're flexing your hand and push up to the sky, as if you're pushing the ceiling up, you're gonna feel gallbladder 22, pericardium 1 area, right? Okay, that's what I mean by this. This is the heavenly pool. The influences from heaven are pooling here. Now, visually, it's a lot easier to see it because, you know, especially on this guy that's standing on his hands, you know, where his body is well formed. So you can see the hole being created on pericardium 1 when he pushes against heaven, except he's upside down kind of thing. All right. So let's go back to the slide. And then we have the pooling of yang at Sanjiao 4 at the wrist. So when I reach out and grab things, I'm going out, that's a yang action, and I'm pulling. Okay, there's a pool of all the yang influences of the things that I'm reaching out to. And then we have the pool of the wind at the occiput. And again, the occiput and wind are highly correlated. For me, not so much because of catching cold. I know that's the standard explanation. For me, it's more, this wind is about allowing the movement between the brain and the body so that there's not going to be too much crazy thinking in the brain, that we're not obsessing on things, that we're not, that there's just not constant issues in the brain. So we're releasing the wind from the brain. Okay, not so much. I'm not so much interested in external wind invading. Okay? So then I have to ask myself, large intestine 11, the bending pool. What is it that is being pulled? What is that's being gathered? A pool is a place of gathering. Okay, so what is it that's gathered at large intestine 11? Their assumption is that these are like master points of something. They're representing something. My answer to that is that it's the ability to bend. Chu is to bend, to manipulate, to move. Okay. So on the one hand, the elbows have vastness of ocean, but they also have small, because the two points that have the character ocean are heart 3 and small intestine 8. And guess what those names are? The small ocean and the tiny ocean. Shaohai and Xiaohai. Okay, so on the one hand, we're talking about an ocean. On the other hand, we're constricting it. Then we're talking about the ability to bend. Okay, and then we're sort of saying that there's something that's very slow, like the ocean and the marsh, the character for marsh. On the one hand, and this goes back to the previous slide, so, oops, sorry. Every time I reshare, I need to do this. So a marsh, if you just look at the character Z, it means a marsh, okay? A marsh is like a swamp. It's murky, it's slow. However, in the Bagua, if you look at this trigram, okay, this trigram also means to exchange. So therefore, it implies that the character for marsh or swamp also means something brilliant or joyous. So on the one hand, you have this, the murkiness of a swamp. On the other hand, you have something that's brilliant and joyous. You know, these are contradictions. Okay? The elbow is the flexibility to hold contradictions, to bring things in and integrate them. And the moment you're integrating anything out there, there's going to be something opposite to it. Okay? The ability to smooth the contradictions, the opposites. Okay, that's the bending pull, and that's what I'm saying has something to do with the elbow. Okay, now the shoulders. Okay, so the shoulders represent freedom. Okay, so the character shoulder, there's two ways to spell out shoulder, and you see that in point names. Some will say jian, okay, the shoulder, and that's like a swinging door that's inside the body. Okay, so that's the structural function of the shoulder, and the points that have that character are large intestine 15, Samja 14, small intestine 9, small intestine 14, small intestine 15, gallbladder 21, the shoulder well. Okay, now people translate that also as shoulder, but it's actually more like the area. Okay, it's more like the soft tissue. Okay, it's like the rain. It's again something in the body that is soft, that is like the rain that's falling softly, like the beard grows slowly. Okay, I know it's a little weird. And you have 3 points that have this thing. So the shoulder can be this freedom of swinging, or this sort of softness in the body, something soft in the body. Okay, now, so I'm taking 1 point specifically, large intestine 15, because that's kind of the extreme example. Okay, so this is the shoulder U. Okay, so you say U is is translated as if it's a shoulder bone. The left side is shoulder, is the bone, and the right side, what they say it's a mountain district where it's famous for its monkeys, but you can say it's basically a monkey. And what it is, it's like a demon that's sort of like going all over the place, that's trampling all over the place, playing all over the place. Okay, so when you say demon, I don't mean evil. Demon meaning without too much thinking, kind of thing. You know, like your primitive reflexes. Oh, I just want to go and, you know, when you're a child, I just want to go and freak out. I just, you know, something like that. Okay, and if you add the heart underneath that character, you get the character for foolish. Okay, so, and remember, it's a monkey. Monkeys extend their arms all over the place, and they are very playful. They can be as if they're intoxicated. Okay, oops, sorry. I thought I had another slide on that subject. So what it's trying to say is that the monkey, okay, that foolishness of the monkey, that freedom that a monkey has, no restraint, is what the shoulders represent. Now, we also looked at large intestine 15 as a point for detox. Detox from what? When you're intoxicated, okay, you act foolishly. Not just with alcohol, with other things also. Alcohol makes you more joyous. Other substances may not make you joyous, but they still make you disconnected. Okay, so so that's one thing. The other thing is, if you look at the deltoid, the shape of the deltoid is very similar to the shape of the liver, right? So large intestine,
similar to the shape of
the liver, the shape of the deltoid is similar to the shape of the liver. I will get a slide for you on that. I don't have one, but I'll get that. I'll show you the actual thing. So therefore, the large intestine 15 is a point that is used to detoxify the liver, number one, and to make it to, when you're acting intoxicated, when you're being foolish, and your shoulders are just swinging all over the place, there's no containment, sort of thing, just like this little monkey there in the picture. All right, now the upper arm. Now this has been a big koan for me. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is sit, establish your upright posture. You know how to do that. Send your heels down to the ground, lift the ankle bones away, send the knees away from you, send the hip bones away from each other so the sacrum has space, and activate the inner thighs. and become upright. Now, what I want you to do is bring your elbows, so your upper arms, make your upper arms, don't push anything. Relax the upper arms and almost squeeze them slightly so the elbows and the upper arm are touching your body. Okay? And now take the elbows away from the body. Okay, just open the elbows away. What happens? Bring the elbows into gallbladder 26. Take the elbows slightly away, 3 or 4 inches away from gallbladder 26. Into 26, away from 26. Most likely, when you bring the elbows into gallbladder 26, you're going to feel a little bit of a sinking in the torso, in the chest. When you take the elbows away, the chest opens more. Okay, it's not as dramatic as the gallbladder 29 phenomenon because the legs have more power, but you can see how the upper arm controls the mood in some way. Okay, so what happens, hold on. Okay, so you have points here, okay, that have the characters heaven or soul, ling, the clear spirit, or the, you know, I mean, well, you can decide whether it's really green, so it's fresh, the fresh spirit, okay, the fountain of heaven, okay, the heavenly palace, and the chivalrous, the white that rescues, like a knight on shining armor kind of thing. And then you have, okay, so these all suggest an exhilarated spirit, like lightness of spirit, the lightness of the chest. And then you have the 2 others that suggest the opposite. Qing Leng Yuan. Qing Leng, okay, so Qing Leng together means something like that's bleak, that's kind of desperate, that's like, oh, no hope. Okay, Sanjiao 11. The abyss of no hope. Okay, and then you have something that disappears, the extinction river. Okay, so you have points that can make you very light and open and fluffy, and also this ability to just make you very heavy and, you know, mentally heavy and sinking. Okay, so the upper arm, it affects the chest, allows the heart and the lungs to open, and also affect your mental state. Okay, so I'm just trying to look at the different portions of the body. So when you have pain there, you might generate ideas of what I can do with it, what else it might mean. That's all. Okay. Now, before we move into the fingers, I just want to explain the character Chang. So we have 2 different Changs, okay? And they're basically interchangeable. And yet we have some points that have one Chang and some points that have the other Chang. Okay, so one of them means to rinse, okay, to infuse something, but both of them are going to mean the same thing, to charge, to dash, to push out. Okay, so they both have, even though the Chang on the left seems a little softer than the Chang on the right. The Chang on the right has the same meaning, and it's moving with weight, with emphasis. Okay, so Chang means to push out, and what you're going to see is you seeing Jing Well points in the hand have this Chang business. Okay, so Sanjiao 1 and pericardium 9 and heart 9. Okay, and then you also have points that imply an exchange. Shang is a character that implies merchant. It's the merchant yang, and the small and the smaller merchant, lung 11. Okay, now then you can argue, and what happened to small intestine 1, which is a marsh? Again, it's a zi, the same marsh that we talked about in the elbows. And you can, I'll make 2 arguments here. The first is, oh, no, this marsh really means something that's an exchange, because you saw in Bagua, it can means dway, to cash something out, just like the merchant. It's an exchange. I will also make a totally different argument that's against it, which is this marsh, this swamp, is really a reference to the small intestine, to the duodenum. That's where the marsh, the swamp, is in the small intestine. All the stuff comes from the stomach with a chyme, and it's just this murky stuff, and it's going to get distilled in the jejunum. And why do I think that? Because small intestine 2 and small intestine 3 now have a before and after. So it seems like the first 3 points on the small intestine are a reference to the 3 spaces of the small intestine. Why do I think that? Because in the large intestine, they actually say it. Large intestine 2 is called Erjiang, the second space. Large intestine 3 is called the third space. They literally say it in the point names, and the large intestine also has 3 parts. Okay, so there are 2 ways to interpret why the small intestine 1 either belongs in this idea of Chang, of moving and exchanging, of pushing out to the world and exchanging, or why it doesn't. Okay, everything has a contradiction. It's very easy to find contradictions. Okay, so, and in the foot, what we have, again, we have something that's going to reach out and exchange the exact same thing. Again, we have a white with spleen 1, something that's rising, the hidden white in this case. In liver 1, we have something, first of all, we have the character big, okay, and something that is urges, or we say sincere, but it's to urge yourself to be sincere, sort of thing. And if you look at the actual what the character means, it's to strike something, to strike a lamb. Okay, you have the fountain at kidney 1. It's not exactly a Jingwell point, but it kind of is a Jingwell point because there's no other choice. Then you have a point that reaches UB67 to reach the yin, to reach the ground. Okay, and then you have gallbladder 44, an orifice. Okay, the yin here, sorry, the chow here, okay, is as a hole that you shine through. You're shining something through a hole. Okay, so again, something that reaches through. And then stomach 45, which is again an exchange. This is the dway that I'm saying that the marsh, the swamp, can be considered a dway because of the Bagua thing. Okay, so you can start to see how the body, how they name the points in certain ways. They're having I believe they're having certain thoughts about what these parts of the body do. Okay, so my suggestion is that we take a 5-minute break, or do you want 5 or 10 minutes? What would you prefer? Nobody's answering.
I'm asking, but yeah, nobody's answering.
10. It looks like it's a 10. I think that what I'm seeing is 2 hands up. So let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at it will be 2:06, 2:07, whatever, and we'll continue. Okay, and then we'll start with questions, and then we'll continue. Okay, thank you. All right, so before I take questions, I have an answer from a question from before, which is about large intestine 15 and the liver. Okay, so look at large intestine at the deltoid. Okay, and you can see that the shape of the deltoid is a little bit like the shape of the eye. Large intestine 14 and upwards, large intestine 14 or a little higher up, and even large intestine 15 are very good points for the eye, for eyes, as well as voice. But I don't have a picture for why it's good for the voice. That's a different story. And now let's do the same thing and look at, impose the liver on it. So here's the liver and here's the deltoid. And then let's just rotate the liver a little bit and move it. You see how it's similar in shape? That's what I meant, that the large intestine 15 has some resonance with the liver. So that's why I use large intestine 15 for voice issues, for eyes, for skin and detox. Okay, so that's what I meant from before. So now you have a visual for it, which is kind of nice. Okay, so let's take questions.
Do you have a sample of the moxa that you use?
Yes, if you I don't have it around here, but I'll show you. No, I'll show you. So okay, I will bring it after the next break. You know, just remind me before the break to bring moxa, because my brain will forget. But the moxa that I use is what, if you go to OMS, it's going to be 100% pure gold moxa, and it's going to cost you huge amounts of money. They sell it, I believe it's 100 grams for a box. And it's like, they sell it now for maybe $250. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But 100 grams will last you a lifetime. Now, what I do is I will figure out the address of, I get it from a place in Japan, and it's only $80 for 100 grams, including the shipping. And it's even better moxa. It's, okay, so moxa, you take the aye, okay, you take the Artemisia vulgaris, and you know, the moxa that I use is supposed to be the fluffy, you know how some plants, the leaf has like some wool on it, you know, like some fluffy stuff. It's not the leaf itself, but it's almost like something grows on the leaf, like attaches to the leaf, like wool. That's the moxa that I'm using, okay? Raymond, can you turn your microphone off? Okay. Can you turn your microphone off? Can you mute yourself?
Oui, j'aurais une question pour ça.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so
He has a question, so we'll go back to him.
yeah. I saw his hand. I know. But
Okay.
let me answer the other one. There's another question still. You didn't recognize. So okay. So the moxa that I use is yellow, and it's very fluffy. It's that fluffy wool on the leaf. Okay, it's not very hot, and it really is very fluffy. And this direct moxa, what it does, it produces a little bit of heat, but it's like it dissolves the tissue underneath, and the patient might feel like a little mosquito bite at the end, but they're not going to feel like hot. Okay, now when they do moxa, can you imagine? It's impossible to go around the leaves and scrape the wool off the leaf, okay, and collect it. It's just, so what they do is they go and cut down the whole thing, the twigs, the leaves, everything, okay? They grind it, and then they put it in they centrifuge it. So the fluffy stuff, that gold stuff, gets thrown away far away because it's fluffy, it's light. So now you collect the fluffy stuff, and that's the expensive stuff. In the middle, you have stuff that's sort of brownish yellow, blah, blah, blah. And that's the less good moxa. And then in the middle, the stuff that's closest to the centrifuge is the twigs and the heavier stuff. What you have in the moxa stick is the heavier stuff. It's not so much the leaves, it's mostly the twigs. Okay, so it depends on what part of the plant you're using that makes the difference of what kind of moxa it is. Now, of course, in moxa, when they use moxa for heat, not like I'm using it for stimulation, what happens, that moxa, often they will add some other herbs, warming herbs to it, not just the ayen, not just the Artemisia. Okay, but what I'm using is supposed to be just this really very nice, soft yellow stuff, and I'll show you afterwards. I'll bring from another room, so it'll be easier to see. Okay, so Raymond, go ahead.
D'accord. Oui, j'ai.
He has. Yesterday he asked. Maybe I missed the answer, but I don't use moxa with any kind of smoke that can happen. If I use an electric moxa, what do we do with that?
Okay.
Because of the smoke, you can't just use it at all.
Fair enough. Okay. So two things I would say. First of all, direct moxa, the moxa I use, There's no, if you're allergic to absolutely any kind of smoke, maybe you can't do it. But usually people say, I can't use it. And the reason they can't use it is because of other people, saying it stinks. The direct moxa, you smell nothing. You just smell the incense stick. I'll show you when I show the moxa later, I'll show you what I do. But I understand some people no moxa, it's fine. I don't know anything about the electric moxa. I don't know anything about the oils that they do for moxa, but I do know there are some, you can buy these things for bee stings against, if a mosquito bite or a bee sting, and there are these little electrical things, I'll show you later also, that you press a button and it zaps you. People tell me, I bought one to try it and I didn't like it, but people tell me that it's as good as moxa. I spent $50 and I bought it and I still like to do moxa. I'll show you moxa afterwards and you'll understand why I like it. When you do direct moxa, it's like a meditation. It's like you put it on and you light it, and you put it on and you light it, and you put it on and you light it. It's very nice, and it makes you connect with the patient in a way that needles don't allow. Needles are a little aggressive. Moxa, even though they might say, ouch, me, in my own space, it's very slow, very smooth, very meditative. So it allows me to do something that I happen to like. Now, I will tell you something that is, not everybody's going to like what I'm about to say. In fact, most Japanese style practitioners are going to basically take me out of the club. I'm not allowed in anymore if I say that. Because most Japanese style practitioners are very proud of the beautiful moxa that they do, and it's so beautiful and blah, 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 blah. Japanese, they love beautiful things. Everything is very clean. Everything is very beautiful. Chinese, everything's very rough. You don't see Japanese people spitting on the street, but you go to China, everybody's spitting on the street. It's just the nature of the cultures. It's not good or bad. It's just different. So people really get into this moxa, and in Japan, many people only do moxa. They don't needle at all. Okay, so it's, especially in the West, people get very, you cannot do Japanese style without doing lots of moxa and blah, blah, blah. Yes, there's advantages to doing moxa, absolutely. But I had a clinic partner who used to say to me, why do you spend all this time doing moxa? You can get results you get results with the needles. Why are you doing the moxa? The answer is this. The moxa, yes, you will get some result with a needle. The moxa will make the result last longer. Okay. It's especially true for the immune types and for the deficient type people. Anything to do with the lungs, and especially, remember I told you when you have these, on the inner border of the scapula, you have tightness there from circulatory problems that it represents lung or cardiac issues. Not if it represents just muscular problems, but if it represents cardiac or heart, it's important to dissolve these. So some points are just moxa points. By tradition, fine, because some moxibustions use them. But honestly, for example, Fukaya gallbladder 31, the one for the piriformis, Fukaya was a moxibustionist. I don't use moxa on that point, and needle does a perfectly good job. There's no great reason to do moxa on that point. But other points, some points, if I can't do moxa on it, it's like barely gonna work. Liver 5 with a needle, and I have this experience because sometimes I'm like, during the pandemic, do you know what it's like to do moxa with a mask on, and I'm trying to blow on the incense stick and nothing happens? It's a mess. Okay, so I would try to just needle liver 5, and I noticed the results are 30%. The moxa really makes a huge difference on liver 5, for example. So you evaluate yourself what you think is good, how much moxa you really want to do. It is time consuming. There's no question about it. But it's up to you. But and like I said, I don't do moxa that stinks, that has smoke at all, ever. So in the year 2000, Was it 2000 or yeah, 2000? Kiko and I brought one of her teachers, Master Kawai, to this United States, and every point Kawai uses is with moxa on top of the needle, huge moxa. His wife is his assistant, and all she does is puts the moxa on, lights it up, takes it off, and throws it into water, so it goes out. And the smoke, oh my, I mean, Kawai does not use any needle anywhere in the body. Ear point, skull point, doesn't matter. If he puts a needle on, it gets moxa, huge moxa, no choice. Okay. So, it's like he came, and I'm impressed, blah, blah, blah. And I use moxa in my clinic. And oh my God, after 3 weeks, I said, I've never touched moxa. It's 23 years now, more. I will not do moxa in my clinic except direct moxa. Now, I treated him, and I did liver 5 as it happens, and I did OQ. I did what we call direct moxa. And he laughs at me and he says, oh, that's very nice moxa, but can I have the real thing? So, everyone has a different idea of what they want out of moxa. It's not one uniform thing, moxa. Cigar moxa is one thing. Moxa on a needle is another. Teeny little rice grains is another. Slightly bigger, so like we say sesame size is one thing. Rice size is another. There are also moxa that you can make bigger and you snuff them out and take them off. There's different kind, they're all doing slightly different things. In Japan, because in Japan they like to, everything has a space and an order and blah, blah, blah. It's like everything is very zen. Okay. There's specialties and there's a name for every kind of moxa. There's some name, a different name. In my opinion, that's more about training your mind. Okay. Because, and this is why. Let's say, I'm making stuff up right now. Let's say you do flower arrangement in Japan. You have to study for 10 years to become a flower arrangement master. Okay. The first year you just watch and you do nothing. The second year, maybe you're allowed to bring the flowers to the master, so the master arrange. Slowly, you get to the point where you're allowed to actually do something with the flowers and arrange them. Okay. 10 years. It's like, how can it take so long? You ask yourself. Now, let's say I have a diploma in flower arrangement. I'm a Zen master of flower arranging. Now, let's say I want to play the trumpet. And there's no master of trumpet, it's not a Zen art, but let's just say, I don't have to now, a trumpet, it's an instrument you have to learn. I don't have to do 10 years anymore. I can go 1 year, study with someone, trumpet, and I'm now a master. Okay, why? What's wrong here? And it's not because it's trumpet or flower arrangement. It's because I already have 10 years. I've already gone to school. I've already studied 10 years. I've trained my mind. It's all about training the mind to operate with carefulness, with awareness. It's not about the actual technique. And I think people miss that. So it's not that you have to learn moxa for 10 years. You have to learn to be an artist for 10 years. Then you can change the art form. The technique you can change. It takes a little time, but it doesn't take 10 years because you've trained yourself. You have mastered yourself. You're not mastering flower arranging. You're not mastering moxa. You're mastering your own self. That's what it's all about. Now, that was totally off subject, so let's move on to something. It was a little too long about the moxa, but it's just that people are so proud of their moxa skills that they are forgetting that that's not the main thing here. It's fine to do moxa a little bit more roughly. You do what you can do, but I will show you the moxa. Any other questions? No, it seems like, okay, so let me share the screen and we'll finish this part of the lecture and then we'll do some more body parts. Okay, so now we're moving to sculpt. So I believe that scalp is going to be the big future of acupuncture. Okay. I believe that because we're such brainy people and we're getting more and more brainy because of all our, our computer stuff. Everything is visual. Everything is, the brains are operating in the body. We're all like not doing anything in our body, and we're getting more and more into our brains, into our heads. So I do believe there are many systems of scalp. Okay. I happen to like Yamamoto, but that doesn't mean it's not because he was Japanese. He is Japanese, but it's just it's what I'm familiar with. But there are lots of systems. By the way, Yamamoto, although Japanese, does not needle lightly in any way, shape, or form because he's a medical doctor. So it's not because of lightness. It's just I'm a little bit more familiar with it. Okay. Now, but just to show you that on the brain, these maps have existed for a long time. Okay, so that is like the sort of the first map of like why you would needle areas and on the scalp. That sort of justifies the whole thing. Okay, because we know that this is how the brain is arranged. Okay, then this is Yamamoto has many what he calls somatotypes, mappings. This is just one mapping. Notice that it's called I, which means I'm assuming there was an A, B, C, D, and E, and F. He has one on the chest. He has all sorts. He's very productive, in producing maps that reflect the whole body. Okay, I happen to like this one, and I'm going to tell you a secret that I have a shorthand for the whole thing. Okay, which is called Sanjiao 22, but my Sanjiao 22 is a large area. So obviously Sanjiao 22 is not going to reach the back of the ear. You can't call the back of the ear Sanjiao 22, but the whole space of the cervical spine and the elbow, the arm, the whole thing, basically I'm calling Sanjiao 22, and I'm just looking for something that's going to work. Okay. Now, did the ancient Chinese, okay, have an understanding of the same thing? Okay, and I'm going to argue that they did, because how come the gallbladder channel has 20 points before it moves to the neck? It's all about the scalp, and the bladder also has a bunch of points, right? It has from bladder 4 to bladder 10. So there's a fair amount of scalp points, okay, as well as facial points, which we saw as liao, okay? So there's a lot of emphasis. The Chinese did not ignore the brain. Just because they call the mind the heart does not mean that they don't have a brain. Okay, now does exist. The character for brain does exist. Okay, so on the frontal hairline, it seems to suggest how we are linking, how we're digesting, bringing things from the world into the brain. That will be stomach 8. And then moving towards Du-24. So the stomach channel starts at the eye, goes down to the nose, around the mouth, up to the ear, up to stomach 8, and then connects to the brain at Du-24. Then the rest of the channel starts at stomach 5 and moves down. And you have the stomach channels that we have on the body. But the very first part of the stomach channel is about take the world in, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ear. Okay? Take the world in and bring it into the brain, digest it into the brain. And it passes through the frontal hairline. So these are Shen points. Gallbladder 13, Du-24, gallbladder 15. So we're seeing that this is the frontal hairline they saw as a way to take in the world. The courtyard, okay, is where you receive guests. The Shen, the courtyard of the Shen. Okay, so that is the first, the frontal hairline. Okay, because so we're talking about the scalp, looking at the scalp. Then we're looking at the side hairline. Okay, so on the front of the side, we have the suspended, the gallbladder 4 and 5, which have the character to be suspended. Okay, suspending the continuous activity of the brain. For example, in stroke, that activity is suspended. Okay, And then we have points, gallbladder 8, 9, and 10, which by names, I think I have the names showing. No, actually I don't. I'm sorry. I'll bring them up if you really want to later. They're suggesting things like synapses. You have, for example, a point called Tian Shan, okay? The heavenly surges, things that surge, okay? And so it suggests that the sensory input and the synapses. So it suggests also something to do with myelin, okay, because of the surges that are happening. At the top, you have gallbladder 13, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so you have the root of the Shen, gallbladder 13. You have the facing the tears 15. You have the window of the light, gallbladder 16. You have the freaking out, Zhen Yin 17. And I can't remember what 18 is called right this second, but it does have a meaning, which I'll figure out in a second. I consider these points that affect the marrow. These are the prefrontal cortex. They're above the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So they have to do with pain and fear. Okay. And then you have occipital points. Gallbladder 19, which is has the character for brain in it, the door of the brain. Gallbladder 20, the wind point. 11 and 12, are not so, the names are not meaningful. But this is all about calming the wind, calming the fluctuations of the mind. So you can see in the gallbladder channel that they're addressing the functions of the brain, that there should be continuity to it. There should be sparking. The brain needs to be sparked. The brain itself can be frozen with fear or pain, and that we want to calm, that it can be open and smooth if we calm it. Okay. Then this idea that the San Jiao is people say the San Jiao, it's the lymph system, it's it's a lot of things. The San Jiao can be a lot of things. One of the things that the San Jiao is, it's a representation of, it affects, it may not represent, but it affects the nervous system. The character Jiao, which we say burner, like San Jiao, 3 burners, okay, doesn't just mean burner. It also means anxious. It's used in different expressions that means anxiousness, to be anxious. Okay, so basically, if you break down the character, it means it's a bird, Jiu, like Ren 15 has this character, a dove, that is on the fire, meaning the bird is going to be your shish kebab. Okay, it's on the fire, it's being roasted. If you were going to be someone's roasted dinner, you would be anxious also, don't you think? Okay, so the San Jiao represents to me is a way to get into the nervous system. Okay, now we're seeing it in some of the point names very clearly. San Jiao 18, for example, is called the furious vessel. Okay, San Jiao 19 is called the resting skull. San Jiao 22, I'm sorry, it's wrong, it shouldn't be say 20. San Jiao 22. Sorry, the English character, the Lushi, it should be He Liao is the English. The Chinese is correct. And that's the harmony Liao. So the number is not San Jiao 20, but San Jiao 22. And the name of the point is He Liao. Okay, the Chinese is correct. Okay, so you can see the San Jiao is an extremely important channel. It coordinates the 3 burning spaces, which means what? It coordinates those 3 diaphragms. What I'm trying to suggest to you is keep looking at these diaphragms that we talked about when we talked about the upright posture, the perineal diaphragm, the chest diaphragm, and the throat, the laryngeal diaphragm. It's extremely important to open them up so there's smoothness in the body. Because ultimately, what we're really trying to do is create smooth flow in the body. And I think that's the end of this part of the lecture. Okay, so let me just get rid of that and stop the share. And any questions on that part?
For me, it's more about like understanding the content of what you just presented and then the relevance of how we can apply that to our practice.
Was that a question or a statement? I mean, you made it a little hard
It's a
to
bit of
answer.
both. It's a bit of both,
Well,
honestly. It was a lot of
I know.
information.
I got to
And
know
I'm
you a
not
little bit.
sure, I'm not too sure what to do with it. Is basically where I'm going.
Okay. It's good that you're not sure where to go with it. That's exactly so. Okay. You have to understand, I come from a tradition where not knowing is a good thing. Everything starts with not knowing. Be open, okay, is kind of the idea. So, of course, you want some basis. So I gave you, remember, we started with a map of the body, and I gave you some protocols. And then I purposefully pulled you away from it all to give you a different picture that's not, and it's up to you to make it clinically relevant. Now, you can make it clinically relevant using the tools that I use, which are palpatory. So, okay, let's put it this way. Let me give you a story, okay? So you may like stories, I don't know. So remember, I told you about the arms. I've been contemplating this point name, Qing Leng Yuan, Sanjiao 11, okay? I'm going, what a weird name. Okay? Because the problem is, it depends on how you parse the name. It actually can mean clear, cool abyss. Clear, cool, Qinglen, on the one hand, it's an expression that means despair. On the other hand, it also means clear and cool. And if you look at Chinese literature, there are things like clear, cool lake. It's supposed to be a wonderful thing. You know, on the one hand, it's that frozen, it's clear and cool, and it's frozen. On the other hand, it reflects the moon. It's so beautiful. Okay, so it's a weird point. Why the hell would somebody name a point like that? And what does it mean? I'm sitting there literally for years. You know, I mean, not every second of my life, but, you know, I'm not going, what is going on? This name is so weird. And finally, it dawned on me, they're not talking about clear and cool in that sense of nice. They're talking about despair. At least I think they are. I can't ask them. Okay, they're dead. There's no phone connection. And then I'm going, oh, what do I do? Okay, let me play what happens in the upper arm. And then I'm going, okay, when I'm sitting and I'm bringing my elbows in, it feels a little bit more like despair. When I'm opening, it feels lighter and hopeful. Okay, so don't take the elbows so far out, just a few inches. Touch gallbladder 26 with the elbows and then take it slightly away, just 3 or 4 inches. Okay, so you just contemplate all this so-called knowledge or ideas that you receive, and you see which ones, which koans, which questions appeal to you to take on, and then you play with it on your patients, and then you prove to yourself, oh, Avi is bullshitting, or you say, oh, that's a very interesting idea. Let me try and extend it. Let me try and play with it, prove what he said, or it triggers more thinking in me. So your life as an acupuncturist, ideally, should be full of questions and curiosity, wonderment. So you're constantly, quote unquote, learning and wondering, you know, because the human organism, you know, I'm using point names, but you can use anything you want. It really doesn't. This is our meditation on the human condition. And then you take that meditation and you try and apply it in a practical way on the patient that's on the table in front of you, and you see what happens. So it's easy for me to say, okay, because I've been doing it for a little over 30 years at this point. So it's like second nature for me to just like, oh, blah, 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 take here, take there, meditate, look, yeah, and come up with some soup. And what I like about this technique is I can test the soup. Okay, I'm not just, you know, there's an expression in English, I don't know if the French have that. The nicer expression is you throw spaghetti at the wall, but you know what the original expression is, right? And you see what sticks. Okay, I am throwing spaghetti at the patient, so to speak, but I'm doing it with intelligence. And I'm not just waiting for things to stick. I'm testing if they're likely to stick to begin with. Okay, that's why the testing part is so important in this style. That's why I love testing. I'm not just making shit up. Okay, I'm not making spaghetti up. Okay, I am making stuff up, and then I'm testing to see if it's realistic or if it's just my mind made up bullshit. Okay, because trust me, I've had millions of ideas in my lifetime. Okay, maybe billions of ideas, who knows? And they are useless. I mean, it's embarrassing. You know, to come up with one good idea that really works, you need 20, 30, 40, maybe 150, 100. You know, who knows how many stupid ideas. You know, do you know how many times I misinterpreted characters? I thought it means this, and then it turns out somebody says to me, Avi, no, you don't get it. It doesn't mean that at all. You know, all the time. So you have to be willing to be vulnerable, and vulnerable in front of
Excuse
people.
me. I'm sorry. I'll just
Yes.
take a break. I just choked a little bit on my own throat.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you have to be willing for using the way I work. I come to the patient. I don't know. I'm willing to come to them as I don't know. I'm not coming as I'm the expert. Okay. I'm coming. I know your medical history. I palpated your body. I have some information, and I'm playing, and they see me play and they see me fail. This is not a kind of style where you can say, oh, your pulse is blah, 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 blah. The patient doesn't know what kind of pulse they have. And then you can say, oh, your pulse is much better. You're getting better. You should pay me another $3,000. You will get even better. I mean, I'm joking, but you know, there's a certain amount of that happening with what I do. You cannot cheat. Either the patient abdomen gets better, the neck gets better, or it doesn't. There is no escape. If you fail, the patient knows it immediately. Now, so the thing is to train the patient. Yes, I failed. I'm trying again. I keep trying. And the problem with that is then the patient is always expecting you to keep trying until you're successful. So they have very high, they put a lot of pressure on you because of that, because they get used to that. You know, yes, I let you fail. Other practitioners, they don't even think that the practitioner fails. They told me this adjustment is going to solve my shoulder problem. And why do you have neck pain after that adjustment? Oh, well, I don't know. The chiropractor did it and he must know. I mean, I'm joking to some extent, but I see it. You know, so application, besides when I gave you protocols and stuff, when I start getting more philosophical, it's really to give you more tools. It's really to expand your capacity. It's not to dictate what works and what doesn't. Is that fair?
Yes, I'm going to leave with the beginner's mind and just take it from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in 10 years,
Thank you.
you can be a non-beginner, and then you say beginner's mind is really, my goal is to be a beginner again.
Okay. Okay. I get where you're going with it. Thank you.
All right. And Lise, you had a question. You have your arm up, hand up. Lisa Lacroix?
Oui, j'aimerais clarifier
She would like to clarify the last point from the last slide. It's 22. Oh, she was asking for a triple burner 22 because
Yes.
I said it in French, but she didn't get it.
Okay. So unfortunately, the slide is wrong. Let me see if I can get the slide back. Hold on. Just for 1 second. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I'll get it. Okay, let me just get the share going. My apologies. Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay, so at the bottom, when it says triple warmer 20, it should say triple warmer 22. And the name, you see, I just copied the point from above. The name is He Liao, the Harmony Liao. Okay, so the name on this slide in the pinyin is wrong. It should be He Liao, Heliao. And the number of the point is Sanjiao 22. Is that the one that you meant, or are you meaning the what I'm trying to show you with these 3 points is that all 3 points
Yes, she's okay.
confirm. Oh, it's okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So we'll take a break. I'll bring the Moxa, I'll show you Moxa, and then we'll go through the rest of the conditions that Lilian asked about. And then I really, really, really recommend that you look at anything that you want to ask. You can always ask me by email. It's okay. People ask me questions by email all the time. It's not a problem. But, you know, it's not like we're going to sit together again, because once the class is over, you lost the opportunity to actually interact. Okay, so it's whatever you have, bring it up. Okay, so shall we take 10 minutes? We'll come back at 5 minutes after the hour. All right, I'll see you in 10 minutes. So let's start. So to show you the Moxa, okay, so the Moxa that I use, I don't know how much you can see that, oops, it's a very, it's yellow gold, can you see that? No, okay.
Raise your hand just a bit.
Sure.
Raise your hand just a bit.
It's on my hand, it's just.
Yeah,
not-
okay, stay there, stay there.
Yeah, we can see now. That's good there.
Okay, so that's a little piece of Moxa. The color is very yellow. Okay, it's not brown. Okay, now, so this is how it works. So hold on, let me set it up so that hopefully you can actually see. So I'll show you liver 5. Okay, so this is not blood. This is just a cream. So I'm going on the bone. This is behind the bone. This is on the bone. So spleen 7 is here. Liver 5, I'm looking for a dent on the bone, and I found one. There's usually more than one. I'm just going to put a little bit of cream on. Okay. Now, oops, sorry. I take a little bit of Moxa and I roll it and I keep it on in my left hand. Okay, I pinch a tiny bit and I land it on the point. Can you see the point? And I light it. Whoops. Doesn't want to light. Sorry. Okay, it's lit. Then I pinch a little bit more. Land it on the same spot and light it. Pinch, land it, light it. I snuffed it out because it was a little, you know, I got a little mosquito bite. Land it, light it up. Now, some people make them look really beautiful. It's not so important. So mine are a little bit rough. This one. Okay, so that's direct Moxa. No big deal. Okay.
So your finger are like guitar players. They're resistant to. They're trained. You don't feel the heat when you go with your finger.
When you listen, if I do this on the Moxa, it's nothing because it goes off. No, there's no real training here. It doesn't hurt. I mean, this Moxa is very light. it doesn't burn so strongly, you know, so it's not like you don't have to worry so much about this moxa. Okay, let me show you something. So I roll it, and then I lift a teeny amount. You see how tiny it is? How much heat can there be from something like this? You know, so no, it's not like, you know, when I snuff it out now, if you're really Japanese, you don't snuff them out. That's considered, oh, no, we don't. That's a different technique. For me, it doesn't matter. I don't mind being a little barbarian and snuff it out. But, you know, so in Japan, they train people, they tell them to take tissue paper and to burn 100 cones on the tissue paper. And at the end, after you burned all of them, the tissue paper should still be white with no holes. Okay, then it's considered that you really mastered being able to do the moxa. So it's a very nice idea, you know, it's very cute, but I don't think that it's all that relevant. You know, it's like you can make, I mean, you know, if you look at Kiko, for example, you know, she does bigger moxa because it's faster. You do slightly bigger cones and you let them burn, but not all the way, and snuff them and then relight them. It's okay to do that. It's just that artistically, it's nice if you can do every cone exactly even and very tiny and blah, 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 blah. Yes, that's nice, but no big deal. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
How many times will you, how many repetition will you do?
Okay.
On the
So
same point?
Yeah, fair enough. So most points we want the patient to feel either heat or a little something like a little mosquito bite or something. 5 to 7 times we want them to feel. That doesn't mean that you're burning 5 or 7 cones. You might be burning 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 cones, 10 grains before the patient ever feels anything. Okay, so you keep doing the moxa until they say, oh, I can feel it. And then hopefully they feel 5 or 7 times. However, sometimes that doesn't work well. Okay, sometimes you can't get the patient to respond. So what you do is you look at the skin. When the skin gets a little more red, you know, there's pink around the area, that's good enough. Now, some points, like liver 5, for example, large intestine 15, we say it's a lot more moxa. We say the patient should feel 21 times. Okay, so again, you know, don't worry about the number of times they really feel. It just means do lots of moxa there. Okay, and don't burn them though. Okay, because they're not going to come back if you burn them.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Okay, so let's just, I promise you those gallbladder points.
Je m'excuse, j'en aurais une question.
Yes.
Par rapport à, est-ce qu'on peut revenir à, c'est un peu
Can
vraiment
we
au début, là, par rapport à
come back to the Oketsu at the base of the skull on the right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes back yesterday, but she didn't get the whole thing about the Hoketsu on the right hand side of the base of the skull.
Okay, fair enough. So sometimes what happens is somebody will have pain right side occiput, only on the right side, not on the left. So I start thinking, gee, maybe that's an Oketsu sign. So I check to see if the abdomen has Oketsu, left stomach 26, 27. Okay. If they do, first what I'll do is release the Oketsu with left liver 4, lung 5. Yeah.
Which point is it on the abdomen? Stomach
On the
27?
abdomen, left stomach 26, 27. On the abdomen. Okay. So first I release it with liver 4 on the left, plus lung 5 on the left. And then I check if the Oketsu on the head is better on the right side. Then I needle left stomach 26, 27 in the abdomen. And my hope is that this one on the right side, the occiput, is gone. If it isn't, chances are it's not Oketsu. So for example, just like with the cardiac and the lung, we say kidney line on the left side is supposed to be heart, supposed to be cardiac sign, but it can also be a lung sign. It's just that the left lung is weaker, so it shows on the left and does not show yet on the right. This occipital thing shows only on the right, might be blood pressure related, might be autonomic nervous system related, might be hormonally related, but for some reason it only shows on the right. So now you can say, what do you mean for some reason? You have to figure out why. We're supposed to figure out this person. So the natural thing to figure out why right side is, oh, something in the liver makes it show more on the right. But it might not be the liver. It might be just the way the person is built. So I can't always say occiput right side only must be Oketsu, but it has a good chance of being Oketsu. So I see if when I press on left stomach 26, 27, the right occiput gets better, then I'm saying, oh yeah, it really is Oketsu. Okay, I'm testing everything.
Est-ce que c'est parce qu'on en voit plus souvent à droite qu'à gauche?
Is it because we see it more often on the right side than on the left? It doesn't happen on the left, the Oketsu?
The Oketsu will not show
On the occiput?
On the occiput, okay. It is, okay, two different issues happening here. Oketsu does not show on the occiput on the left. Oketsu shows on the right. Why? Because the right side is the liver side. Oketsu is related to some extent to the circulation in the liver. Okay. Now, is it possible that you find occiput only on the left and not on the right? Yes, it's possible, of course. That will be the case where maybe it's blood pressure, maybe it is hormonal, and for some reason it shows only on the left right now and not on the right. Maybe in 10 years it will show on the right also. For some reason that person has a weakness on the left side, so everything shows more clearly on the left. Okay, so don't always, so for example, kidney 16, below kidney 16, 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Sometimes you find only 4 o'clock, okay, only on the left side. You don't find 8 o'clock, or the other way around. You only find 8 o'clock and not 4 o'clock. So some people say only do adrenal treatment only on the side that you found kidney 16, below kidney 16. I disagree, okay? You should do both sides, and the reason why is because no one is stressed, had a shock only on one adrenal. Let's say you were kidnapped in Gaza. Are you going to, when you come out, are you going to say, oh, you know, it was only a shock on the left side, the right side was perfectly fine? Impossible. The adrenals work together, okay? But it's possible that on your body, it doesn't reflect yet on both sides, that the left side or the right side were more vulnerable for some reason, so it shows more, okay? But so you should still needle the adrenal, in my opinion, both sides, because the adrenals, you cannot exhaust just one adrenal and not the other. It doesn't make sense, okay? So sometimes the symptoms are not going to show on both sides. It's possible, but but I would treat both. Yes.
Merci beaucoup.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Hi, Ivy. I just wanted to go back to yesterday's slides regarding the release of the neck, to make sure we have release of the abdomen, all that stuff. I have a question in particular regarding the release of the neck. There are several points that you gave us in a slide, and I just wanted to check in with you to make sure that I have the right points for the right release of certain structures. I think the SCM is 8 or 5 Sanjiao.
Yes.
The scalenes are
opposite side.
Opposite side, yeah.
Thank
7
you.
or 9 are the scalenes.
7 or
Kidney?
9.
Kidney?
Okay. No.
Oh.
For the scalenes, it's spleen 3.
Oh.
8.
Okay.
Heart 3 or inner yin. The kidney 7 or 9 is for the cervicals.
That's it. Okay. And if I go by, because I want to apply what we've learned in a sequence for patients, obviously. If I wanted to, let's just say this person has a super tight neck, etc. You would do all of these points to do all of the structures of the neck before moving on to try?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say a person comes in and they have super tight neck and it's tight everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to prioritize. I mean, yes, I could go and release one thing at a time. So this is one of the things I said yesterday. Don't chase one symptom. Don't chase one finding. Chase them all. So I know the person has very tight neck. Now, the first thing I'm going to say, so I have techniques to release the neck. Sanjiao 8 for the SCM, spleen 3 for the scalenes, kidney 7 for the cervicals, yak. Okay. So I know my protocols. Or hopefully you know your protocols. It takes time, I get it. But I don't want you to act like some idiot that follows protocols. I want you to start thinking. So, for example, I don't want to be too demanding, okay, so don't get me wrong. But so you're saying to yourself, they have all this tightness here. What's going on? Why? So maybe they have a thyroid. Maybe the whole issue is thyroid because it makes the whole neck tight. Maybe that's the problem. Or you might say to yourself, maybe they're not using their legs, so that the whole torso is not held. They're not resisting gravity. So then they're pulling themselves up from the throat, desperately trying to be upright because instead of using the legs. Maybe what you need to do is give them the chwai first and not the neck first. And then when you give them the chwai, the neck starts to relax, and then you only maybe need to release one. Another way to look at it is to say, now people with very tight necks often are sympathetic dominant. So maybe under the third toe is the first thing that needs to happen, and then see what's left and work with it. Another method of thinking is to say the blood supply comes from the scalenes. The blood opening is here. So let me release the scalenes first and see what else happens. But if you're going to chase every single finding and use the points that I said, do you know how many needles you're going to use?
Well, that's what I was worried about.
So no. So remember, I'm always looking for the point or the protocol, the idea that knocks everything else down. I'm always looking for something that doesn't just treat the point that it's supposed to treat, but it treats lots of things. So you keep in mind, they have tight neck, maybe Sanjiao 8, maybe spleen 3, maybe heart 3, maybe this, maybe that. You keep it all, and then you experiment and you say, what's the story? What story are you telling about this patient? Remember, that's the most important thing for me. Make up some sort of explanation, correlate the palpation and the medical history. Look at the medical history and say they had something in the medical history. Let's say they have autoimmune disorder. It doesn't matter. I mean, they have Crohn's, okay? Actually, no, let's not make them have Crohn's. Let's make them, they have lupus, okay, for the sake of it. And you go, okay, the most important thing in the medical history here, then they came to you because of the neck. They say, my neck is really tight. I'm not sleeping because of my neck. And you palpate and everything is horrible in the neck. Instead of chasing everything in the neck, you say to yourself, lupus is an autoimmune disorder. That's the most prominent thing in this medical history. Let me try and treat autoimmune. So I press on REN4 and I see how much did it release the neck. And if it did, I found the first injury that the neck is on top of. Okay, so don't chase the neck, chase the first injury. The neck is a way for you, the tight neck is a way for you to be sure to test whether the medical history, whether the thing you're addressing in the medical history is correct or not, if it's really affecting the body or not. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. I guess I was
And
trying to
that's
make
difficult.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was trying to make sense of yesterday and today, and you know, kind of move it forward and everything with
Yeah.
this morning, and
Okay.
that's why. Okay, so it makes sense. So I don't
let me,
necessarily have to follow those steps that you gave us in order to treat like an organ or anything like that necessarily. I do the palpation first, go with what the referred pain is for the patient, try to go with what the first thing is that happened or that fixes the most stuff, and then go from there.
yes. And it's a
Okay.
constant process. It's a constant process that you're doing. You know, what is going to fix the most? That becomes the most important.
Okay, thank you.
Here's what I would suggest at the beginning. Okay, when you start. So some people, you know, it's hard from a Zoom webinar to get excited about this. Oh, wow, I want to practice this and nothing else. So naturally, you're going to do whatever you do, and you'll add a few pointers from what I did. Like, oh, this person has lots of colds. Maybe Sanjiao 16 is painful. I'll try immune points. You know, you'll start little by little, one by one, to incorporate a few things. Okay, this person is very nervous. Maybe they have an SCM. I'll try Sanjiao 8, opposite side. This person had a big shock in their life. Do they show below kidney 16? I'll try adrenal. You're not going to use the whole style all in once and stop doing what you used to do. You're going to start, you'll incorporate a little bit, a little palpation, add it a little bit at a time, especially because you've learned it on Zoom. It's a lot harder to really implement. Okay, so as you get better at it, so you start getting better at different protocols. Then, when you're good at some of the protocols, you have them under your thumb. You can work with them more easily. Then you start making it more sophisticated. You can't make it sophisticated from day one. So start with just, okay, let me try the immune thing. Let me try the stomach chi thing. Let me try the adrenal thing. Let me try that Sanjiao 8 thing. That's why I keep emphasizing to you points that I use a lot. Let me try that inner yin business. Okay, so you try some things, you get it under your belt, you get comfortable with them, and then slowly, you start to see that you can change your whole way of thinking from TCM if you want. I'm not saying you should, but I can totally do acupuncture without any TCM whatsoever. There's no more excess and deficiency. There's no more spleen chi. There's no more liver yang. There's no more. It's like I can work with a whole different paradigm. I'm not suggesting that you should. It just happens to be what I do. I can only offer you what I have. I can't offer you how to do TCM. Okay. I cannot offer you how to use Master Tong. I can only offer you what I do. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you should imitate everything that I do. You know, I have many failures. You don't need them. Use what's going to work for you in your own clinic successfully and create your own style out of it. Okay, so I'm just presenting you how I do it. But how I do it is based on decades of my own research, my own clinical experience, my own failures. Okay, it's not something that you're going to be able to do right away, and you shouldn't. You should have your own experience, and you should incorporate your own method, the things that you resonate with, not just the thing. I resonate with the physical body. I like it. I like the whole notion of upright posture, you know, the use of the legs. This is the way I'm thinking. But you can be a very successful, listen, I know people who are great acupuncturists. And when you go to the clinic and you look at what they do, because I've done this many times, and I'm shocked. This is what you do every day? Large intestine 4, liver 3, every patient, every day. But they get great results. If I did it, though, nothing will happen. Okay, but they can do it. There's something in their personality, maybe, I don't know, maybe they're emitting chi. I don't care why it is. It's something that I cannot do myself. Okay. Everybody is different, and everybody should be different. So I'm simply sharing my way of thinking, and you will pick up what's going to work for you. But I have no expectation whatsoever that you will work exactly the way I say it works, because that doesn't make you an interesting practitioner. Okay. It's like you will work the way you will work in accordance to what you, however you understood what I said, which I might say, wow, I cannot believe she understood this. This is garbage. It happens. People tell me, you taught this, and I'm like, I never said that. I can't believe you think I said that. I don't believe I ever said something, but that's what they understood. And then they come back and they say, it works like magic. And I'm going, I'm glad it works like magic, but it had nothing to do with me, because I never said that, because I didn't know that. It's not how I think. So everybody takes what they take and they create their own thing out of it. And that's a good thing. Anyone else before I go totally crazy and give you too much philosophy? Yes, Nicole.
Here, is there, with your experience, is there cases or situation where you've noticed that your approach doesn't work? And
yes, of course.
At the first hand.
Some people do not respond to palpation. They don't like being palpated. Some people cannot. Some people are so disconnected from the body, okay, that if you say, is this better? It's like, sometimes they drive me crazy. They just cannot answer. Some people, the nervous system. So a lot of these people, if I have a saying, if the patient raises my blood pressure, they get the blood pressure point under the third toe. And honestly, many times they start to respond a little better. Now, I also have to develop some patience for the fact that not every person is connected in the body. And unfortunately, over the years, in the last 30 years, more and more people are unable to tell you what's happening in the body, because more and more people are not connected in their bodies. They're constantly on the computer. Okay, so they're, so it creates a certain style of person, unfortunately. Okay, that's more prevalent in our culture. So sometimes, somebody asks me, do you trust what you feel under your fingers? Sometimes I have no choice. I just work with what I have under my fingers. Listen, as much as I tell you, test every point, don't just throw in needles. Clinically, sometimes I have no choice. Sometimes I'm going, you know what? I can't figure out what the hell's going on here. The person can't respond. I'm just going to throw the needles in or feel what's under my fingers. I'm not going to ask them. Sometimes I'm just going to work theoretically from the medical history, but that's not my preferred method. Why? Because generally speaking, that tends not to work very well. That's not the best way to work, but sometimes I have no option. I also have some patients have been to other acupuncturists, and they want a certain style, and they want thicker needles, and I want to feel it. I have patients that complain that they're not feeling the needles. So I go, okay, you want to feel it good. How's that? And then they're happy. Some patients want me to needle into the pain spot. I've had situations where I've released people the pain, and they're upset because I did not needle into their shoulder. And I'm like sitting there, but what's the matter? Your arm goes up. Why do I need to needle into your shoulder? No, they need it. They psychologically need it. So fine, here, take a needle. Take that. So yeah, my style works for a certain amount of people. Naturally, it does not everybody. The person has to be willing enough to work with their body. And some people just can't. They just can't do it. It's not because they don't want to. Their body, the connection between the brain and the body is missing. So I can try and encourage it, but it's at some point I have to say, look, this is not about me establishing that connection so they can tell me, they can resonate. They're coming here for their X problem. I'll address the problem the best way I can. And it was not the best way for me, but it's what I can do. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else before we do more lists of points? Give you more of a headache. I know, but we only have 15 minutes or so, so no big deal. All right, so I'm going to share the screen. And actually, let me take the other PowerPoint. I do have those gallbladder points that I sort of said I would do, but let's go through the conditions first. So, hold on. Oops. Oh, damn it. Okay. So the next question is, somebody cannot rotate their neck. The first most important thing, by the way, this relates to whoever asked about the neck. So I'm giving you the whole thing again, basically. First thing is release the scalings. That's the most important finding. If they have scalings, then release it with spleen 3 and or lung 8 and or inner yin and or heart 3. You've seen this time and time and time again. Release the SCM, because the SCM, when you rotate the neck, the SCM is what's working. Okay, so that's your Sanjiao 8, possibly Sanjiao 5. Then release the cervicals. They don't work as hard as the SCM, but they are part of the rotation. So that's your kidney 7 or 9, your liver 8 or your inner yin, and the Sanjiao 8, which we've already possibly done, thought of doing. Then release stomach 9, and then you can needle stomach 9 from behind, Sanjiao 16 area. Okay, and then I have a point behind the ear for all neck issues. Sorry, this is the first time it came up. It's behind the ear. Let me stop the share so you can see it. Behind the ear, when you pull the ear forward, there's a tendon that pops up under that tendon. Okay, so if you look at the Shanghai text, that point is called the Yang Wei point in the ear. Behind the ear, pull the ear forward, see that sticking tendon, under the tendon, needle it. Okay, that's a very good point for thyroid and for the neck in general. Okay, so and then on the back, again, look at T5, T4, T3, T2, the sacroiliac ligaments, and T11, T12. Okay, hernia at L5S1, so L5S1, and plus in this case, there's supposed to be sciatica. So for L5, your best point is spleen 9, and always add kidney 7 to it, because it's on the spine. Okay, Ren 12 or Ren 10, or towards Ren 10, 11, 12, that area, because that area relates to spine, and in this case, we're talking about the lower spine, so we're going lower than Ren 12. It's a spinal problem, so look at kidney 1 or 1 sun towards the toes from kidney 1, that's heart of soul. If there's a twist involved, okay, like they bent over and picked up something but twisted as they picked it up, that's a gallbladder 26 indication. Okay, on the back, you're going to do the sacroiliac ligaments, do 2, T11, T12, and T5, because that activates the spine. And now you can support all of this by needling something. You can needle do 16, or you can go further up above the occiput, anywhere from do 16 to do 19, needled upwards, can help L5. You can support it by doing the 4 corners, small intestine 9, 10, and Yao Yan. Okay, and possibly large intestine 16, and gallbladder 39, or anywhere along the correct tendons. Remember that famous slide of the shin. Okay, sciatica that comes from the spine. So yes, treat the spine, which we just did, but also add kidney 16 to what you just did. Then for the sciatica, you can also possibly do the metal water of the channel that's involved in the sciatica. Okay, so if it's sciatica down the bladder channel, it's UB 66 and 67. If it's on the gallbladder 43, 44. Sometimes you have stomach channel, so that's stomach 44, 45. Or you use the Jue point of that channel. Unfortunately, I never showed you the Jue points, but so we'll skip that possibility for right now, at least. Okay. Then she asks about sciatica from piriformis syndrome, which is different than from the spine. Okay, so treat the sacrum in L5 just as before, because you can't guarantee it's really just piriformis. And then also look at inner yin, because it's a muscle. The piriformis is tight because it's trying to grab something. So try and give it some release. And possibly gallbladder 34. It's one of the fountain points. Okay, so what you're trying to do is give the piriformis is tight probably because it's trying to grab, because there's no action in the leg underneath it. Then to actually release gallbladder, the piriformis, use Hukaya gallbladder 31. So now it's 2 fingers towards the bladder channel from gallbladder 31 and 2 fingers upwards towards the buttocks. So you can try and use regular gallbladder 31, but usually Hukaya gallbladder 31 works better. Then you can use bladder 36, or you can use 2 fingers below bladder 36 if there's no pain there. Okay. Sometimes bladder 36 is not convenient to use. Not every patient likes it because it's a little, it's just under the buttocks, and some people are a little shy or whatever. And if it's a muscular spasm, the piriformis is a muscle, then you can use spleen 3. Okay. Then she asked, low back pain during women's period. Okay. So treat the gynecological reflexes. Check stomach 28, which is ovary reflex, and treat the ovaries are mainly in the kidney domain, but could be in the liver. And then check the uterus reflex, and that will be a spleen or liver kind of points. If it's endometriosis, use liver 5, and it's a moxa point. If it's hormonal, use UB66. If it's a pituitary problem, for example, the woman said, I used to take the pill and I hated it. I was vomiting when I was taking the pill. The birth control type person is pituitary generally, and that's a small intestine 3 and a UB2 type person. Okay. Then you can add whatever points you want for the back. So if it's a gynecological thing, treat the gynecology first, then you can add things for the back. And then if bladder 32 is not too painful, when you press on it, you can add bladder 32. If bladder 32 is super painful, okay, then you can maybe release it with bladder 15. Remember, I told you bladder 15 and UB32 have a strong connection. And you can also needle small intestine 13, which is a hormonal point. So that releases, remember, small intestine 12, small intestine 13 are good points for the sacrum. But if it's a hormonal issue, you're more likely to use small intestine 13 because that is a hormonal point. Okay? Now, so that was back pain, and now there's the belly pain. So the exact same thing. You treat the gynecology first. And here I added fibroid point, liver 8, but it's the exact same thing we talked about before. Okay, no real difference. Okay, and on the back, you're going to do the sacroiliac. The sacroiliac, one of the points that are on the bladder channel that I consider to be sacroiliac point is Bao Wang. Okay, the uterus Wang. Wang means it's something that's, people translate as the deep tissue of the in the body, but it's also the actual character means something missing that's in the body. And it's a long subject, so we'll let go right now on that one. I shouldn't have gotten into it. The psoas, if the psoas contracture, okay, liver 4, remember liver 4 and stomach 30 resonate. They have the same character in the name. Liver 4 releases the psoas. Inner yin and L1 on the back, lumbar vertebrae 1, can release the psoas because it releases the inguinal. Okay? Quadratus lumbarum, I assume contractile means spasm, but so that will be a kidney 7 and a lung 10. But I take my lung 10 not on the bone like TCM does. I take it more behind large intestine 4 on the fleshy part of the thenar eminence. Okay, so you know, just relax as I'm going through all these points. It just gives you more vocabulary. You don't have to memorize everything. It's totally okay. Don't get too frustrated. And we don't have a lot more anyway. So, all right. Then she asked about the tensor fascia lata, and actually she means the IT band because the tensor fascia lata is the muscle at the top. So around gallbladder 31. Okay, so liver 8 because it's a tendon, and either gallbladder 34 or the metal water of gallbladder 43 and 44. Gallbladder 39 might do a good job, and inner yin or liver 12, spleen 12 area might release it. And the hip and the IT band are controlled by L3, lumbar vertebrae 3. So you might want to do that. Okay. And personally, I recommend a foam roller, to roll on a foam roller, but some people, it's so painful, they can't. It's, by the way, it's painful for everyone at the beginning. When you first roll, the first time you roll on your IT band with a foam roller, it hurts like hell. But for most people, they can do 1 or 2 times, go across 1 or 2 times. And then every day they can increase 1 more until they get to 10. And by that point, yes, it hurts a little bit, but no big deal. Okay. But if they have pain there, I'm not going to ask them to do a foam roller. Okay. Knee pain at the patella or inside liver 8. Okay. So for the patella, I use stomach chi or stomach 41. And also stomach 31 or 32. I'm looking for something in the quads to needle, to lift the patella up. The inside, the liver 8, because you know there's a few questions in the one question here. Liver 8 is basically kidney 6, possibly adding lung 8. You'll call it lung 7, but I don't have a lung 7 that's out of line. That's why I'm always saying it's lung 8, even if I'm meaning lung 7, I'm going to call it lung 8. Okay. And if it's in the back, if it's around GB40 or more, when she says inside of the inside, maybe she means a little more on the back, but medial. So that will be kidney 7. Inside, like as around spleen 9, because even though she said liver 8, maybe she meant liver, she meant spleen 9. That's a gallbladder 26 indication. And again, stomach chi or stomach 41 with spleen 5. Any kind of knee pain, my first point is stomach 41, and I can add spleen 5 to it. And I might add, or I might only use the stomach chi points, those bumps below stomach 40, close to the bone. And any knee pain, I might use liver 3 and heart 6 or heart 5. They're very close. It's impossible to tell. And always use the sacroiliac ligaments for knee pain. Okay. A sprained ankle. So this is that dead zone that we're talking about. That's kidney 7 and gallbladder 39. And I might consider gallbladder 34 or gallbladder 43 and 44. That's metal water. Immune point might work. And the sacroiliac ligaments.
It's 39 or 29?
That's the one at the top. It's kidney 7 plus gallbladder 29. Why gallbladder 29? I'm separating the leg from the torso, so I'm not getting more dead weight on the ankle. Okay, I'm trying to lift the torso away from the leg, so it's not falling into the leg. Okay. Oops, I think I skipped a few. Oh, wait. Okay, here we are. Plantar fasciitis is immune point, kidney 7, spleen 9, and stomach chi. That's the best thing the best things I have for plantar fasciitis. A week ago, somebody called me and said, would you needle spleen 3, liver 3, and kidney 3 for me for my plantar fasciitis? I said, no. I'll give you needles and you can needle yourself. She's a nurse, as it happens. I can't work with someone else's protocols. So the reason why I wouldn't do it primarily is because I don't want to needle into the plantar fascia, spleen 3, because that can create a problem. Okay. And if the plantar fasciitis, she feels it in the heel, the person feels it on the heel, I use kidney 1, and if you don't want to needle, just do direct moxa. And stomach 41 and direct the needle towards the pain area on the heel. Cramps at the calf, use opposite side gallbladder 34 and opposite side Sanjiao 4. So if you have cramps on both, you use both sides gallbladder 34 and Sanjiao 4. Spleen 3 because it's good for muscle cramping. And Yao Yan, the lumbar eye towards the leg, down and out towards the leg, because that's the blood supply to the leg. Okay. Water retention and pain in the leg. It was unclear where the pain exactly is in the leg, but for water retention, I use spleen 3, spleen 7, and spleen 11. The most important one here is spleen 7. I often do not even bother with spleen 11. Okay. In spleen 11, you're trying to look for the puffy area, the area where the tissue seems thicker. Okay. It's very important that you find a dent on spleen 7. And if you can do direct moxa on it, it's very good. Then check and release the inguinal, because that can cause water retention. And the top of the inner thigh, meaning liver 12, spleen 12 area. On the back, when I do edema, okay, I'm now trying to stimulate the quadratus lumborum, the kidney muscle, in order to get the kidneys. I've just moved the water with the spleen. The spleen moves. Okay, now I'm going to try and get the kidney, through the kidney muscle, to excrete that water, to get rid of that water. So that's bladder 20, 23, 25, and 28. I'm surrounding the quadratus lumborum in order to stimulate the kidneys to get rid of that water that I just moved with the spleen points. Okay. Hip bursitis. Spleen 9 is your best point for hip. Needled upwards, flat to the skin upwards. Kidney 7, stomach 41, possibly liver 8 and gallbladder 34. There's a possibility those will work. And L3 might work on the back. Okay. Restless leg syndrome. Okay. So here I did something weird. Here are the points that you can use for restless leg. Kidney, it's considered an adrenal issue. Okay. So kidney 7 or 9 plus kidney 27. Treat the autonomic nervous system. Okay, so we know how to do that. That's Sanjiao 5 or 8, spleen pericardium combination, and under the third toe. Okay. Shimian, the center of the heel, is a good point for sleeping and for the nervous system. Then you can also look at, see if you need to add things like bladder 2, do 24, gallbladder 13, 15, or 17, the fear area on the left side. And on the back, I do 2 and L5, because L5 relates to the legs, and T5 relates to the shin. Okay, so restless leg is a weird combination of both. It's a kidney issue or it's an autonomic nervous system issue. It can sometimes be related to diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, but generally it's considered kidney or autonomic nervous system. Okay, the most important thing is to regulate the sleep. Okay, that's why the center of the heel is in it. So a famous herb for sleeping is Swanzao Ren. Okay, the sour jujube. Okay, so and there are formulas for people with restless leg that contain primarily Swanzao Ren. Okay, and what it says, you know, the character for sour is it also means acidic. Okay, so it's like you're emotionally sick in the heart. Okay, and when you analyze this character, it means a liqueur and something hesitating, difficulty walking. So you see how Swanzao Ren, that swan is Swanzao Ren, has something to do with the legs, weirdly enough. But generally, people just give it to you because it's good for sleeping. It's the one of the biggest herbs for sleeping. Okay, and I think, oh, that's not the last one. Sacroiliac pain syndrome. Okay, so if the sacroiliac itself is painful, I can't use it to treat the spine. I have to release it with same side gallbladder 34, same side liver 8, possibly kidney 6 with UB62. I can try and fix it on the front. This is all on the front still. Side gallbladder 27, 28. Okay, the tensor fasciolata, there's a trigger point there. It's the same Ushu again and again. It's just I wrote it at a different time, so I described it slightly differently. Then on the back, you can do small intestine 13 or small intestine 12. Remember, the scapula relates to the sacrum. Then, if the sacroiliac ligament, it's just one-sided, I can take the exact same spot and needle the opposite sacroiliac ligament. Now that I'm treating them on the back, I don't do gallbladder 34 again. I choose behind gallbladder 34, okay, behind the tibia, and possibly bladder 36 or 2 fingers below bladder 36. And that's it. So we have 5 more minutes. Any questions, or would you like me to go through the gallbladder points? Up to you.
I have questions.
Yes, of course.
Can you, surprise, surprise.
Yes, yes.
Can you please elaborate on your lung 7, lung 8 differentiation
Okay.
that you don't call it lung 7, you call it
Yeah.
lung 8?
Okay. The reason why is because I do not, for me, I don't have a point that's out of line on the lung channel. So it just doesn't exist. It doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm calling, whether it's 1 Zun or 1.5 Zun, who cares? That area I'm calling lung 8 to make sure that people don't go out of, don't try and take it. You know, they don't try and take it here, that they take it in line with the channel. So if you're trying to do lung 7, because you're saying it's, oh, I said kidney 6 and lung 7 are good friends. I'm saying, yes, but don't take it here on the bone. Take it in line with the channel. Okay, so that's why I'm saying I'm just calling it lung 8 for simplicity. But if I want to say the friend of kidney 6, I'm supposed to say lung 7. But if I say lung 7, people are going to go towards the large intestine channel, and that's not a point for me. That doesn't mean anything for me. Just that's not.
Okay, I understand. So
Fair enough.
you don't use lung 7, you just use lung 8 as lung 7. So
Exactly.
lung 8 has both points in one.
And since every point I palpate to see which one is the most effective, then I might move the point. With a half Zun difference, it doesn't matter. It's the same point.
Okay, I understand that. And then one more question about spleen.
Yes.
Spleen 9 is a common point. You use it a lot.
Yes.
You talk about it a lot, and you always say needle upwards.
Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay. So, can you see? So I move up the bone, and the moment my finger wants to move to the side, because with the curve of the bone, I stop. So that's I don't allow this to happen. I move up, and then I press up. I don't go to the side. That's spleen 9. And now what I do is the 1-inch needle, and notice the whole needle is in. Here's the guide tube. The whole needle is in, and it's pretty much flat. I never needle spleen 9 towards gallbladder 34, always with the channel. This is with the channel. Make sense?
Yes, thank you so much. That's great.
You're welcome. All right, anyone else?
Will we get the slides from the what you just did for all the
I'm
different-
very happy to give them to you. So there was a little bit of confusion around those slides because it was meant like as an add-on. Most of that information you have. Let me see if I can put it in the chat and you can catch it from there. I don't know if I can do that. I've never done it before. And just be aware it's in English only. The problem is the organization as a government, they're not supposed to give you things in English. They're supposed to give you to you translated. So because we didn't translate it in time, I said, you know, it's too late. No big deal. But if you're happy with it in English, and since I'm distributing it, there's no government involved. Okay, I guess it's legal. Claude, tell me if it's right or wrong.
Well, I just hope it is. But
You hope it is.
We all have acupuncture books in English, so even if it's your PowerPoint,
Okay, so let me go
yeah,
into the chat.
But
and
we have a
see-
French version. People have the French version from Liette. So
No, they don't have, there is no French version as far as I know.
okay, I thought the document was translated in French.
No, that document was never
also,
translated.
which is not part of my involvement with
I
the
know, I
with
know.
the
So
order.
then-
It happens sometimes. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, you told us that this document didn't really needed to be translated.
Yes,
If
yes,
needed, we can translate it, but if it's okay for everybody like this, it's okay.
Okay, so let me just, I'm putting it in the chat right now. Hold on one second. Let me just you tell me if it works. A la carte, here we are. Okay, so I believe it's in the chat now. It's moving. It's not yet
Alors,
fully there.
oh,
You've
I'm
got
sorry.
it. You have the treatment of pain a la carte. Okay, so you can grab it off the chat, off the chat. Okay.
Carl, wait a second, okay?
Okay, go ahead, Sophie.
I don't see where your document is, Avi, in the chat. I'm sorry.
If
Is
you-
it uploaded it or?
It's uploaded. And I
Okay.
believe it's on the chat. It went to everyone in the hosts and panelists. So I believe you should see it. If you click on the chat again.
I have it. That's all.
Claude, you may be a special category. So everybody else can someone else confirm they can find it in the chat? Yes.
Yeah, I got it and I was able to upload it onto my computer, so I
Okay,
can
so
send it.
Sophie?
I can send it to Sophie. It's no problem.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Mais c'est bien écrit. I'm sorry, I'll switch.
Actually, not about this workshop, but your next workshop. You're coming to Montreal in April, and I was just wondering, maybe you are. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, so then maybe it's not
Don't ask
relevant
the
to
question. Don't ask the question now.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Also, if you have questions, if you have any technical questions, I prefer them very short. You can email me. You can email it to acupuncturemedical@gmail.com or my name, Avi Magidov@gmail.com. Let me put that in the chat. It might be easier that way. So, oops, would not have. Okay, okay. So now you have my email in the chat. Feel free to ask questions. Recognize that sometimes I will tell you you're asking the question in a bad way. It means it's bad way for me to answer. It doesn't mean it's a bad question. Don't be insulted by things that I say to you because I'm trying to help you. So I might say, no, this is not relevant. What you're asking is not relevant for me. This is what I want to know. Start the questions short. Start short questions. And let me ask you for more details. Don't give me all the details at once. It's too overwhelming. Okay, I get emails from lots and lots of people. Some people try and send me the patient files. And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm not going to read the patient file. First of all, it's not legal. And secondly, I'm not interested. Ask me a question with a teeny bit of 2-3 sentences. And then I will ask you for what I need more to help you. I know what I can do, and I know how to guide you. So just trust me on that. I know it's difficult because you want to give me more, but make it short. It's better. Okay. So, anything else?
Thank you. That's very good.
All right. Thank you so much.